Title 42 is going to go away before the end of the year in terms of the Supreme Court, my prediction. And then we're going to have to use Title 8. 8, right? Am I right? Yeah, Title 8. 8, 9. Since August of last year, Custom and Border Patrol have seized more than 20,000 pounds of deadly fentanyl. That's enough to kill as many as 1,000 people in this country.
Well, if you watched yesterday, and we carried it live, you may have noticed some rather messy remarks while the president was trying to talk about the border crisis yesterday. He fumbled facts, butchered numbers. He also mislabeled U.S. Customs and Border Protection as Customs and Border Patrol. And there was a little bit of this.
I sent Congress a comprehensive piece of legislation that would completely overhaul what has been a broken immigration system. But congressional Republicans have refused to consider my comprehensive plan. Failure to pass and fund this comprehensive plan has increased the challenges that we're seeing at our southwest border. No one knows this better than the Vice President. Thanks to her leadership, she's been able to generate more than $3.2 billion from the private sector to create jobs and opportunities in El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala.
Critics pounce. No one believes this is true, including the vice president, one wrote. The RNC with Harris hasn't held a border-related event in more than 6 months and hasn't been to the border since June of 2021. Steve Hilton, host of The Next Revolution. Steve, what is really going on here?
Well, I think this event yesterday was a perfect encapsulation of the entire Biden years as president. What do they do on every issue? They create a problem because of their pandering to the far left extremists who control their party. They then deny the problem exists. They belatedly acknowledge it, but not before blaming everyone else for it, but themselves. And then they come up with totally pathetic stunts instead of real solutions. You saw that on every issue because they are totally focused on sending the right message, signaling their virtue to their activists. They are unserious people. They are not focused on policy. They're not focused on addressing real problems. They are focused on the politics, on seeming to chime in with whatever the latest fad is that is animating their far left extremist activist base. That's why on every single issue, whether it's the economy or transportation or energy, you name it, there isn't a single issue where they haven't turned a situation and made it worse with their rule. And it's, in that sense, so typical. It's not a one-off, this border crisis and their response yesterday. It's exactly how they've been on every issue.
It's so interesting because you're getting us to pay attention to the actions and not so much the words, because no matter what they're saying, the end results are what you're talking about. And I speak of the words because sometimes what the president is saying is, well, it's hard to decipher. And then other times it's just wrong. And just take a look at this.
Well, President Harris led this effort.
President Harris and I stood in the United States Capitol. That's why I asked President Harris to travel to the region last August. Now, when President Harris and I took a virtual tour of a vaccination center in Arizona. Of course, President Harris is a proud Howard alum. It was also Kamala's birthday. Happy birthday, great president.
Okay. He's the president of the United States. Maybe it is something that he's ready to relinquish to her. I don't know. But whatever it is, it keeps happening.
Well, look, it's very clear he's senile. He looks senile. He sounds senile. The way he goes about his job clearly shows that. That's not an insult. A lot of people in advanced years suffer from that. It's not ageist because there are many people his age and older with plenty of energy who don't behave like this, who don't look like this. And so we have someone there who was put there by his party in order to stop Bernie Sanders. That's the truth here. Biden is a totally corrupt machine politician who's done nothing in 50 years except pander to his party, his donors. He's got no principles of his own, no views of his own, other than bland statements about how he supports the working class, even though his policies hurt the working class more than anyone else. He's a puppet of his party, his donors, always has been. And so it's no surprise that when he gets there, there's nothing driving him. There's no great vision or mission he's trying to accomplish other than to be in that office. And that's why when the situation turns to a crisis, he's got nothing to say because there's nothing underneath the desire just to be in the White House.
You could get it right who's your vice president. He does call her Kamala every now and then. But you'd think you'd get that right because you would, you know what? There's no making sense of it. Let's move to this. We expect a historic 12th speaker vote at the top of the hour, well, in 6.5 minutes, when the House is set to reconvene. If the stalemate continues, voting could go through the weekend. Your thoughts?
I think that progress is being made here. People are concerned about the time it's taking. It's just a few days. In Europe, it takes months sometimes to put a government together, an administration together. And what we're seeing is progress for anyone who wants to improve the way Congress works. Of course, it's true that a tiny minority of the rebels, seems to me they're just interested in personal animus against Kevin McCarthy, whatever. But the majority of the rebels are focused on substantive reforms to how Congress works.
Can you
and they're already
satiate
achieving
them?
Results. Well, we've got some of the... yes, because they are winning arguments on things like how bills are considered. It is outrageous that these giant bills just handed to members of Congress and they're supposed to vote on them without having time to read them. They've won a victory on that. It is outrageous that these giant budgets covering the entire government are kind of crammed together in these omnibus bills. They've won a victory that says we have to consider them individually.
It's a good
point. This is progress. So I hope they keep going and get more progress for anyone who cares about Congress working properly.
All right. You know, a lot of what Newt Gingrich said was very similar, that this process is working its way through. Great to see you. Happy New Year. Outnumbered is next.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.